Happy Friday, guys. I'm Aaron from pdog.ws, and if Android's just not your thing, well, there are a couple of BlackBerry options available on T-Mobile. One of those is the new BlackBerry Curve 9360. It's going to be available soon on the nation's fourth largest wireless carrier, and it's packing pretty reasonable specs and a nice little bump that is from the original Curve line. It has an 800 megahertz processor, 2.4-inch display, and a 5-megapixel camera on the back with a flash. So I overheard somebody say today they're not sure why anybody would buy a BlackBerry, and it's really a legitimate question in today's market. Is this a good device to get, or should you spend a little bit more and perhaps get an Android device or the iPhone or Windows Phone 7 device, something that has better internet capabilities, better abilities with apps, and more? It's a good question. We're going to look at that and more in the full review of the BlackBerry Curve. But first, special thanks to my friends at Best Buy because they hook us up with a ton of phones for use in our One Paw Bandit game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, they're unbiased. They're going to help you with your phone. They're going to get you good advice, whether it's Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, or T-Mobile. They're going to be unbiased in their selection. Enough of that. Let's get into it. Review time. BlackBerry Curve. Is this a device to get? Or should you go with something else? We'll find out. What is a smartphone? You find that question more and more in today's world when you see iOS and Android up here in the high end, with a bunch of features and app stores that are fully functional and great browsers and more. And then you look at something like this, which is the BlackBerry Curve 9360. It's going to come in at a pretty reasonable price on T-Mobile, and it's going to be available soon in black, and then I believe on October 10th or 12th, if I remember right, in a kind of a magenta color as well. I can't remember exactly how they worded it in the press release, but it's packing an 800 megahertz processor, and when you compare this to the Curve line, it's an upgrade. I mean, it is an upgrade from the original Curve line, the Curve 3G. It's thinner, it's lighter, it looks better, it has an 800 megahertz processor, a 5-megapixel camera on the back, a 2.4-inch HVGA Plus display, and it is running BlackBerry 7, so it's running the carrier's latest build of software, our latest OS, if you will. But then you look at this and you're like, what is a smartphone, and can this really compare, when this is labeled as a smartphone, can this compare to Android or iOS, some of those options on the market? Well, we're going to try and find that out in the full review, but here it is, the Curve 9360. And you can see how thin this device is, and you see on the left side it has a micro USB charging port. On the right side you got your convenience key. They're kind of hard to see because it's so thin, but convenience key and then volume rocker up here, and then a glossy back on the back, and then you have your 5-megapixel camera with a flash up top. Now, a couple of interesting things on this device. One, they've really cut down the battery life to make it there we go. Cut down on the battery life to make it a thinner device. It comes with the EM1 battery, and it's 1,000 milliamp hours. So you get a tiny 1,000 milliamp hour battery. So if you use your phone on a daily basis, this is not going to be the device, or use it regularly on a daily basis, with moderate to heavy use. This is not going to be the device for you. But you have a 2 gigabyte micro SD card. It comes installed in the back as well. So let me get this battery door back on. But you can see running BlackBerry 7, and then up top you have your 3.5 millimeter headphone. I thought this was kind of interesting. A 3.5 millimeter headphone jack right up here with the mute button. It's just a placement I thought was pretty interesting. But it's a thin, light device, and compare this to something like the Motorola Droid Bionic, which is much heavier, much larger. There's your size difference. So you can really see how this thing compares with other high-end devices on the market. That is, I shouldn't say other because it's not a high-end phone, but how it compares with some of the others on the market. But you can see, typically very fast in most of its tasks, and although I've been pretty used to the 9900 and the 9930, it does not have a touch screen, so I can't tell you how many times I've tried to go up here and do stuff, and I'm like, why isn't the screen working? That's because it doesn't have a touch screen, obviously. But it has that same BlackBerry 7 layout with your messages, with text messages, contacts, all the icons look the same. And then out of the box you get the typical T-Mobile stuff. So you get web to go, you get Cycle Radio, let's see what else you get. Podcasts and all your video stuff, and then the music store as well. And then down here you get T-Mobile Mall, T-Mobile's My Account, YouTube, then of course all the different BlackBerry stuff, instant messaging. You do get BlackBerry Messenger, obviously, applications including BlackBerry Protect, and then I didn't mean to go into frequent. See, I'm doing it again. I just tried to scroll over on the screen and it is not responding. And then RIM social feeds as well, which is kind of an aggregation software for Twitter, for Facebook, and for all of your other social networks. Now, speaking of those, Facebook and Twitter come pre-installed out of the box, and you get some nifty games as well. So a general BlackBerry setup here, and just to walk right through, let's just jump right in. I'll go to text messages here, and we'll take a look at this. We're going to compose a text message. Now, I'm a little spoiled by the 9900, the 9930, because even though, yeah, it's still BlackBerry, yeah, the App Store still isn't quite up to par, it was better designed. It's not as plasticky feeling, and it is more expensive, but it's better looking design. The keys are much easier to press. This has the chiclety keys that are kind of a trademark by now of the Curve line. You have the same 4 buttons up here, send, end, and then menu and back, all which are kind of locked together by one piece of plastic. Then you have the trackpad up there as well. We're going to go ahead and type a message just to see, and I keep doing that. You're going to see me at least 10 times in this video try to touch the display, so fair warning. But we'll go ahead and say the Quick Brown Fox. wants to go out and have a bunch of beers. That crazy drunk fox. Quick Brown Fox wants to go out and have a bunch of beers. So you can see it's relatively easy to type on, although I will say after working with the 9900, the 9930, the keypad is not nearly as good. You can see the keys. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see, or focus in rather, so you can see the keys. Very chiclety. There's some space in between, and they're much smaller than the keys on the 9900 and the 9930. So something to keep in mind, you know, if typing's your thing, you may want to spring up, and you really want a BlackBerry, you may want to spring up to the 9900 on T-Mobile, because the keyboard, not only is the keyboard better, it's a faster processor and it has a touchscreen as well. But still, again, for BudgetBerry, it's a decent keyboard, and the size is just a huge improvement. I think for people that are migrating up from BlackBerry, and particularly the curve line, the size is really what's going to appeal to people here. It is wafer thin. You can just see it on the desk, see how thin it is, and that's really what it has going for it. So, physical keyboard, no on-screen keyboard options, obviously, since it's not a touchscreen. But we'll go into media and take a look real quick, because I want to show you the camera. I'm going to do things kind of out of order here on these videos, part 1 and 2. We'll go into camera and take a look, and I'm going to bring over the LG marquee so we can take a picture of that. No autofocus on this sucker, but there's plenty of light in here. So it's going to be one of those things, if you're in a well-lit area and you're pretty close to the or pretty far away from the subject, it's going to be a pretty decent picture. You get granular, you try to get in and focus on the LG logo, for example. Here, it's going to be a little bit more blurry. You're trying to focus on text, things like that. It's not going to be the best picture. We'll go ahead and take that, and you can see it's a decent picture. It's nothing to be excited about. There are plenty of phones out there that perform better in the camera department, but that gives you an idea of what the picture looks like. They have a couple of options here. You can change the scene modes. You can make it a face detection scene, portrait, sports. You can kind of click on whichever one is most relevant to the picture at hand. And then you have flash, of course, and then the ability to turn on GPS as well. So again, 5 megapixel camera with a flash. So it's going to take pictures in low lit situations, you know, but they're going to be these quick and easy pictures that you want to snap and send to your BlackBerry Messenger contacts or something like that. It's not going to be anything too particularly exciting. Now, Blackberry App World comes pre-installed on this device. I'm going to go ahead and load it up so you can see, because Blackberry App World, there is a newer version. It hasn't been pushed. Actually, there we go. We'll go ahead and update it. I'll update it right now. Okay, so here's the Blackberry App World, and it's version 3.0. So there are some changes, and it's definitely changes for the better. So you can go to Games, Apps, My World, and Payment Options. So we can go in here and you see these ones in the carousel as well that we can choose between. So like BBM Connected, for example, I can click on those and it'll bring up all these apps that are somehow related to being connected on BBM. So Gist, Gas Buddy, Chatmosphere, Screen Muncher, Forces of War, Fox and Geese, and more. So it's definitely an improvement when you go into something like, let's do Jimbo's Quest, for example. You can see it shows me the price. I can go over here to Summary, Screenshots, Reviews, and then I can scroll down and see the summary and see the how many stars it has, and I can share it via, there we go, I can share it via BBM, I can share it via messaging, or share it via email, product details, and more. So it's definitely an improvement, but you look at something like that versus the Android market or versus the App Store, and it just pales in comparison. And I think a lot of people are going to be like, well, I can get my Weather Channel widget, I can get my Fandango widget, but if you're looking for a really custom one, it's often hard to find on BlackBerry. So it's something to keep in mind. The App Store is still painfully, the App World rather, is still painfully underwhelming, although these little cosmetic improvements that they did are certainly nice. So you can see there, and then of course I can go to Apps over here, and I can take a look at these, and I can focus in, for example, on categories. I can see business, education, entertainment, finance, health and wellness, IM and social, and more. So I can come over here and be like Maps and Navigation, and scroll directly down and see a couple of different local search, maps, and navigation. So it's organized well, but again, the app catalog just pales in comparison to the Android and iOS counterparts.